Okay, Priyanka Reyes-Kaura, thank you so much for joining us. You are the K-12 Education Policy Director for Children First. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about Children First?
Sure. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. So my name is Priyanka Reyes-Kaura, K-12 Policy Director at Children First. I am a former teacher, and I care deeply about making sure our public school system is equitable, meaning that it serves all students, including students who live in poverty, students of all racial backgrounds, students with disabilities, students of all orientations and lifestyles and backgrounds. And so that is my passion. Children First is a children's organization that advocates for not only K-12 education, but also early childhood education, children's health, and juvenile justice as well. And so we believe in doing everything we can at the state and local level to improve the lives of children in the Philadelphia region and statewide.
And right now, one of the things that we're going to talk about here is this voucher bill that is going through the Senate, the state Senate. But before we get to that, I think when people hear that, they hear the term vouchers often, but maybe they don't have exactly a clear idea what that really means. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So vouchers are this idea and this program that allows some sort of funds to be used by families to take their child out of a public school and instead provide funding so that they can attend a private school. They can come in all different flavors. In fact, there's already one voucher program in Pennsylvania called EITC OSTC, and that's a tax credit form of a voucher. It's currently funded at a level of $340 million in Pennsylvania. Now, right now, there's another type of voucher program on the table, which is being called Lifeline scholarships. It's another voucher that would take money directly from the state and put it towards voucher programs, so that state money that would have otherwise gone to something else, possibly towards public education, will be redirected so that families can use it to send their children to private school.
And how do vouchers affect Philadelphia?
Well, vouchers affect Philadelphia and all other school districts that have schools that qualify for the voucher program. So the way that the language of the bill is written, the bottom 15% of the most underperforming schools in the state are the ones that qualify for the voucher program. And under that definition, most schools in Philadelphia would apply. And that means that if a child lives in the area of one of those schools, which, as we know, are also schools that are underfunded, that have been historically underserved by the state and by local funding schemes. If a child is in the catchment zone of one of those schools, they would be eligible to receive a voucher. And what that means on a large scale is something that I'm really concerned about, because as we know, the way that schools are funded across Pennsylvania and other states as well is on a per pupil basis. So for every child that attends a school district, the district receives funding to educate that child. And when a child leaves the school district, whether it's through a voucher, through moving, through attending a charter school or another type of a non-traditional public school, the funding also leaves with them. But the rest of the children who are still in that school or in that district, they're still there, but they now have a smaller amount of money left to educate them, where some of the costs have not changed at all. So things like fixing school buildings that are affected by asbestos and lead and other facilities issues, those problems are still there, are just as expensive, but with a voucher program in effect, the district will have less of that pot of money to educate and to take care of those issues.
So how does something like Senate Bill 795 become a thought that the legislature wants to put through? What is the genesis of something like this?
Well, there are foundations and politicians that are behind this idea of a voucher program, it is something that will help students who already attend private schools, or folks who believe in attending private schools. How did it come into being? It's a harder question, but personally, I think that the reason that it's gaining popularity right now is because it's a somewhat cheaper solution to the bigger problem that we have, which is really redesigning the way we fund public education in Pennsylvania. In just February of this year, the Pennsylvania Commonwealth Court ruled that our whole statewide funding system for education is unconstitutional. And so now we're seeing that new ideas like privatization through vouchers are gaining more popularity, because for some that is a more palatable idea. But the problem with that is it won't fix the root problem, which is that our public school funding system is broken. And 9 out of 10 students in Pennsylvania attend public schools. So pulling a few out to attend private schools won't solve the problem for all.
And I'd like to bring Denise Murray here.
Thank you, Larry, and thank you for joining us. I guess my question is, in light of the Commonwealth Court decision, has anybody talked about the fact that this can be seen to some as a means of getting around that decision? Is that one of the issues that opponents of this program have with it?
So there's a little bit of misinformation, and the language of the bill is technical, so it's hard for some people to fully understand what this is. The Commonwealth Court decision, it is specifically about our public school funding system. And so a program like Vouchers or Lifeline, whatever you want to call it, that addresses private education simply doesn't, it's not a solution to the problem that was brought up by the court. Whether it's getting around it or simply not addressing it, it depends on how you look at that.
Okay, now I've covered voucher programs in other cities, places like Milwaukee and in parts of Florida. And one thing that has been an issue is that the very people that they want to give these vouchers to, when they try to take them to certain places, the vouchers are not being accepted because, for a variety of reasons. Is that a part of this bill? I mean, does this bill address the fact that, if you get this private school voucher, the private school that you want to go to has to take it?
No. My understanding is that private schools have the ability to, they're private. They're not regulated in terms of who they accept for admissions. So in other states, we've seen issues like private schools not accepting LGBTQ kids, for example, or students who have certain disabilities. There is a lot more discretion in admissions when you look at private schools. Those things are regulated in our public school laws that require schools to serve all students. And then the other thing is the private school voucher will not cover the full cost of tuition at every private school. And so it doesn't, it might seem like an opportunity to attend a private school, but it may in effect create a bigger financial burden for a parent for whom the private school tuition covers only a small portion of tuition for the school of their choice.
Now, where does this bill actually stand in terms of the budget allocation? Because I've been on Twitter and I've seen various legislators saying there's no way I'm voting for this. There's no way I'm going to support this. What are you hearing in terms of whether or not this is going to make it into the budget? And if you are hearing it's going to make it into the budget, what can citizens who don't want this to happen, who don't think that public money should be going potentially to religious institutions, do to keep that from happening?
Absolutely. So we are really in the midst of budget season right now. Negotiations are ongoing. Lifeline scholarships, from what I've heard, are on the table because there is some support, especially in the Senate. However, no decisions have been made, and it's a great time for lawmakers to hear from their citizens about why citizens and families and parents do not think this is the right choice. So I urge anyone who's watching this who is not in favor of the Lifeline Scholarship Program to contact their lawmaker and tell them why it is that you think this is a bad idea and why this is the wrong time to privatize and the right time to invest in our public education system.
Now, when Josh Shapiro ran for governor, one of the biggest groups of people that gave him an endorsement were the teachers' unions.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hearing from them on this?
Well, teachers' unions are in staunch opposition to any form of voucher program. In fact, just yesterday, my organization, Children First, along with our statewide coalition, PA Schools Work, stood with PSEA and AFT. Those are the two big teachers' unions in Pennsylvania. And we all came together to say vouchers are not the solution that we need right now. The unions are in staunch opposition to this because their membership are advocates, and they are the people who are on the ground in public schools educating the state's children. They're educating our future, and they know that something like a voucher bill is a distraction. And furthermore, there's just no way for a voucher program to exist without taking funds away from public education. That's one thing that I really want to clarify, because the unions are saying it, we as advocates are saying it, but there's some on the pro voucher side who are saying this is a pot of funds that does not detract from public education. That's simply not true, because for every child who attends a private school through a voucher, they are leaving their school district, and the school district has that much less funding to serve the rest of the students. This Lifeline bill in particular is dangerous because it's state money that could otherwise be, and it's $100 million that could otherwise be put into public education.
Okay, thank you for joining us. And I'm going to give you back to my co-host, Larry McGlynn, and you're listening to Hall Monitor on WPPM 106.5.
All right, thank you, Denise. Before we let you go, can you tell us where we can learn more about Senate Bill 795?
Sure, we have, and I will be happy to share links afterwards as well. You can watch our recent press conference from yesterday where the teachers unions spoke out, as well as advocates. That's up on YouTube. You can view our Facebook page for the PA Schools Work Coalition. We also have a memo on the PA Schools Work statewide coalition that explains more about vouchers.
And where can people learn more about your work at Children First?
childrenfirstpa.org.
All right, well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Give me 1 second. Oh, there we go.